And now, the LSU Football Fix with Preston Guy, presented by TigerBait, starts now.
And welcome into your LSU Football Fix. Tigers took care of business this weekend on and off the field. LSU gets a huge smackdown win over Auburn, 48-18, where there's a lot of things. Basically, the team we wanted to see show up for LSU showed up. Probably even bigger than that was who got to come watch the show. You had the number one quarterback in the country. You had the number one running back in the country, the number one receiver in the country. New recruiting rankings just came out today. They're all top 10 overall players in the country. Massive weekend of recruiting. I'm going to give you the skinny on all those guys. If you're watching, please do what Mark Cumby says. Hit the like button, guys. It helps with our analytics, gets more people watching the show, supports what we do. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Hit the like button, share to your social feed, get people in here. We're going to talk about all these recruits hard, heavy, and early. We're going to talk about the game breakdown a little bit and talk about what we liked about it, how expectations were met on both sides of the ball. And then we're going to get to some comments. Of course, not to be overlooked, this weekend, LSU landed two commits from Teray Manchild Francis. Of course, Manchild's a nickname, but he goes to Edna Carr. He's the class of 2025 receiver, 6'1", 205. If you go to Carr, you're playing in New Orleans Catholic League and you get the nickname Manchild, you're doing something freaky. And of course, CJ Jackson, the player out of Georgia. So we're going to get to both of those guys, of course. All right, Zack, we're going to lead with you. All right, so Theo Vaughn got to spend time with Bryce Underwood before the game. All right, letting Theo Vaughn talk to Bryce Underwood. Good idea, great idea, terrible idea. What's your thoughts on that?
Dude, that's a win. Like, that's just a culture move right there. Like, the fact that he was even in town was awesome to me. So to have him talk to the number one overall player in the country is just like the icing on the cake. Like, obviously Bryce, as we saw, had a phenomenal time. And then you get to talk to somebody like Theo Vaughn too, is absolutely hilarious. So yeah, in short, that's a win.
I just want everybody to know I did try to reach out to get Theo Vaughn on the show tonight. I was very unsuccessful. Theo, if you're listening, this is an open invite. I cannot think of anybody I would rather interview than Theo Vaughn, like on planet Earth. He's hilarious. Might have to give the show a not safe for work a little warning for that, but
yeah, he's a man.
he is hilarious. It's one of those things. It's like, do you want him talking to the prize recruit or not? Let's knock out some comments real quick, and then we're gonna break down who was on campus and some perspectives as to what LSU's odds with them are. I've talked about some of these in the past, and I have new perspectives that I've gained from this weekend. Some things have changed with the recruiting based on this weekend. As you know, it was about as good of an atmosphere as you could possibly ask for. Let's get some comments real quick. Fire 3449. Hey, Preston, special teams was solid last week. 2 big commits. And what would Saban give to have Nuss or Michael Pratt from Tulane as his quarterback? Man, that's a good point. LSU might have LSU's backup quarterback may very well be better than Jalen Milroe, although I do like what they're doing with Jalen Milroe there. They've like reined in their expectations for him and kind of tailored the offense around him. He's getting better, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nussmeyer's better, and then Michael Pratt as well. And of course, special teams, again, solid. I'd like to see Greg Clayton get a little better decisions returning kicks, but does anything else stand out to you special teams wise? I can't. I don't know why I don't have anything prepared to talk about special teams, and I'm just.
The kicking game's been just fine. Just the offense has been so phenomenal. We haven't seen any Bramblett, like not that much. Every time he's on the field, he does fantastic, does what you ask of him. But I mean, from a special teams perspective, it's your offense is just putting up so much points. There's not that much that you need from them besides Gregory Clayton just fair catching everything every once in a while. So no, I mean Caleb Jackson's doing pretty well as a kick returner. He's had a couple of bright spot moments in the return game, but other than that, no, man, I don't have that many comments to say regarding the special teams unit.
Yeah, and that's one of those things with special teams. You don't want to be talking about it if you're talking about it, usually means something's gone wrong. And that, in fact, I'll talk about that later on about how Lance Hurd played. I was trying to watch him as best I can. Of course, he's not a ball moving player. Yeah. So when you're watching the game live, it's hard to really keep up with the game and watch an offensive lineman play. But every snap I saw, he looked pretty good. There was one play I saw where he got kind of olayed, but sent the guy on the outside to where he could recover, but the ball's out in a second and a half. So it really didn't matter. And my point is with him is you played a whole game and you really didn't notice Lance Hurd the whole time. Same thing with special teams. It's just one of those things, like if you don't notice it, you're doing okay. Yeah. Kevin Ray, man, I watched the Cecil Collins special. Never take your freedom for granted. That's Jacques Doucet did that piece on WAFB this week. And by the way, Jacques a great friend of the show, great guy. He's been very kind and accepting to me for almost 10 years now. Congratulations, Jacques, on getting promoted to WAFB sports director, replacing a legend in Steve Schneider, who retired last week.
Yeah, I want to say something too about that as well. Jacques been just a really accepting, opening guy, like just an open-hearted guy for me, especially since I got on the LSU beat. I know it's been a short, small sample size, but Jacques been an incredible influence. He's been an incredible guy, always has a smile on his face. So I don't think there's anybody more deserving of getting that promotion. I mean, it's a phenomenal gig for him, and he deserves it more than anybody that I know. So, yeah, shout out Jacques. That's fantastic.
Standout guy. There's a lot of people who, once they get established and set up in the media, like in a position like Jacques, where he's probably one of the biggest faces of LSU local media out there. A lot of guys like to kind of gatekeep as newer, younger journalists arise, like myself, like Zack, and others. And Jacques has he's always been embracing and, accepting of people like that. And that is something that is a bit unique in this industry. I know y'all, a lot of times the fans, you don't get that insider's perspective, but there is a lot of guys with egos and stuff like this in the industry that you got to deal with. And it's just a breath of fresh air. So shout out Jacques. We're not going to spend the whole show talking about him, of course, but he definitely deserves every bit of praise we're giving him. Josh Forbes, what up, BFFs? That's a reference.
I'm not even going to say anything about that.
Mike Scarborough. We have some chats where we make fun of Mike Scarborough for saying BFF more than any 16-year-old girl you will ever meet. And Stephen Miller, of course, agrees with me on fielding punts. He's right there with me, saying we've got to do a little bit better with that. Of course, ultimately, just don't muff the punt. I think that's one of those biggest I'd say punt returner has been the biggest disappointment this year, because we were both expecting Aaron Anderson to take over and do well. Right. And of course, he had that muff punt, and the rest is history.
Been going ever since. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just don't muff it. Oh, you know what I forgot on special teams? Caleb Jackson. What a return.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like in the kick return game, like he's a dude.
I love that. Dude. It's a good way to get his hands on the ball. He's just too. I understand why he's not. I mean, Logan Diggs is your best running back right now, right, and you really can't take too many carries away from him. And I understand it's a crowded backfield, but I just think that Caleb Jackson is too much of a beast not to put the ball in his hands. Cousin Trey, good evening, Preston and Zack, the two goats. Oh, look at that. Deshaun Womack has been impressive when he's on the field. Why has his playing time been so limited? Why don't you start off with that one? That's a tough. I mean, the ultimate answer is the transfers are playing well right now. Ovie Ogofu and Braden Swinson. But go ahead and run with that, Zack.
It's kind of conflicting to me just because, like, from what Brian Kelly said, he keeps talking about wanting to, have these youngsters get on the field and do this and do that, and how they are ready. And then he'll kind of come back and say as well how they're learning, like there's learning curves and there's different things. So in my personal opinion, I think that the best way that you can learn is to get on the field and do what you do best. And that's what I'd like to see more of Deshaun Womack. And I think you'll see a lot of him this weekend against Army, of course. So it's going to be a really good opportunity for him to get on the field and shine, especially with Mekhi Wingo doubtful for this weekend. He's more than likely not going to play with a lower body injury. So your defensive line, you're going to see some shakeup right there. But look, man, Deshaun Womack is an absolute beast. Brian Kelly and the entire coaching staff, everybody within the program think very highly of him. It's just, being a true freshman in the SEC isn't as easy as it's like people want to portray it to be. You want to see these young guys get on the field and ball out and do this so quickly and so early. But if you think about it, man, it's really rare. It's rare for a true freshman to come in and make an immediate impact. So, you trust your guys, you trust what he can do. And, I think you'll see that trust level come out this weekend against Army.
I like that you mentioned that it's tough for freshmen because Brian Kelly's come out and said a number of times he prefers to lean with experience, and he does have experienced veteran guys there, and that's why. But ultimately, Trey, I do think that your best talent on this team on defense is your young talent, and I would love to see him get more and more reps because he has been effective. That being said, Brian Kelly has also preached a lot about gap discipline. Outside contain on pass rush has been a serious problem where the DNs are crashing inside because it's easier. They take the quickest route to the quarterback, right? But then they get sealed off, or the quarterback is a little nimble and then they escape. So I think of like the discipline type plays like that when maybe that might be the explanation for why he is possibly being hesitant to get these guys out. All right, we've got some great comments coming in. Y'all keep it going, guys. Do me a favor, hit a like on the show if you're enjoying what you see, and share it out with your people so we can get the good analytics and get more people in. We're going to do a couple quick commercials, and we're going to get right back to the action. We're going to dive deep into recruiting, probably the deepest we've done since the show got rocking and rolling. So we're going to hear from, first off, Drip IV, and of course they've got great stuff going on with semaglutide, guys. Hilariously, this stuff has been working so well that Walmart's actually shown a 3 or 4% dip in grocery sales. Let's hear from Drip IV.
Hi everybody, we're so excited to share the news that both our Lafayette and our Baton Rouge location are offering semaglutide for weight loss. If you or someone you know are interested in our medically assisted weight loss program with semaglutide, call Kylie in Lafayette or myself in Baton Rouge. We'd love to speak with you.
And of course, guys, if you've been struggling to lose weight, maybe you've heard of this from friends or family, whatever it may be, this is your chance to check it out. Drip IV offers medically assisted weight loss with semaglutide at both their Baton Rouge and Lafayette locations. Call them to book your consultation today. They'd love to speak with you. They will also guide you to the perfect IV drip that fits your needs. These IVs are also great for anybody feeling under the weather, like Zack Nagy was telling me he's a little under the weather. Maybe we need to get him the right IV so he can bring his best to this show. But anyways, these IVs are also great for anybody who needs energy boost. They're loaded with vitamin C, great vitamins, amino acids, electrolytes designed to get you back feeling your best in a hurry. Whether it's a hangover, cold, preparing for vacation, they have what you need. Located next to Sushiyama and Iverstein's on Perkins Crossing on the corner of Perkins and Essen. It's a super convenient spot to always welcome walk-ins. Please say TigerBait for $10 off your first IV drip. I promise they'll get the best possible service to you if you do that. For appointments, you can book online or call the location closest to you. Call them at 225-256-3634. And of course, guys, as y'all know this season, y'all see the logo at the top. Who makes our show possible each and every week? It is Celebrity Theater with 2 locations in Ruston and Baton Rouge. It's Louisiana's only locally owned theater. Because of that, you're guaranteed to get a clean facility with better pricing, superior customer service, state-of-the-art technology. Baton Rouge location has an invigorating arcade with over 50 games, the largest in town. It has a bar featuring wine, beer, frozen drinks, oversized leather reclining seats, and of course the Dolby Atmos 3D sound system. So y'all go check out Celebrity Theaters. All right. I have to pull out some notes for this next segment because LSU had such a star-studded list of prospects on campus. It'd be literally impossible to just know them all off the top of my head. I don't think there's a single recruiting guy in town who actually could memorize this list. I'll start with the headliners. You had the number 1 quarterback in the country, Bryce Underwood, who, if you talk to guys in the recruiting ranking services, they'll tell you he is as talented as any quarterback to come out last year, certainly more talented than the 2023 top ranked quarterback, Arch Manning. You watch the film and this guy just is heads and tails different, man. He's a very talented prospect. He's been an hour away from Michigan, Michigan's campus, right? University of Michigan, not, this just state. And he came to LSU for his 4th visit. And he brought his family on all 4 visits. Okay. Now, I've told you on this show a number of times, I feel like LSU is doomed for a second place finish. This weekend, he not only got to, chum it up with Theo Vaughn, as I was teasing earlier, which that's a boom or bust prospect. That could ruin his recruiting process or make it the best ever. I don't know, man. It's Theo. He went to the game and they put him on the Jumbotron. You could see him swag surfing on the Jumbotron. I blurted it out as loud as I could when I saw that. I said, "That's Bryce Underwood." And I'm sitting right next to Shea Dixon at On 3 and all the 247 guys right now. Like, they stuff us recruiting guys, and they stuff Zack with the recruiting guys too. By the way, he's like 4 chairs over. We're all just like, "Oh, that is him." Just a funny shout out to the Jumbotron guys with the assist.
They knew what they were doing.
They knew, yeah. I promise you they were. And he had a NBA YoungBoy on his shirt, which is like, it was a pretty easy to identify shirt for some reason. It's just like a big face of a black and white. It was pretty.
Right.
I don't even know the word for it. It just stood out. Okay. They put him on the Jumbotron, and it looked like he really enjoyed his visit. And then you have to talk about the show LSU just put on in front of them. 48 points. It's their 3rd straight game putting up that many points. You've got a quarterback who leads the country in total yards, an offense that leads the nation in total yards. And then you get to talk about, I teased about how on the post-game show about the development, because this wasn't the quarterback that Jayden Daniels was when he got here. They have developed him into one of the best quarterbacks in the country, if not the best quarterback in the country. There's a strong argument that could be you next. No, I've been going on here a long time about Bryce, but the reason I'm throwing all this out here to y'all guys is coming into this weekend, I really thought LSU was doomed for a second place finish. I mean, there's been a lot of big national recruits. LSU's done a very good job recruiting and just finished second. Especially when it's not like a hotbed like Florida or Texas. You got a Russell Shepard out of Texas a few years ago. You got Patrick Peterson out of Florida. There's been a lot of guys that you've come close, but no cigar when they're not from your typical pipelines. Guys, if I had to put my money down right now, and tell me if I'm crazy after I give you this, Zack, I think LSU gets this kid. He's announcing in January. And what he's watching, and then thinking about Michigan. They're nervous, by the way, at Michigan. They're very nervous. I have a sneaky gut feeling that LSU gets Bryce Underwood. Am I crazy, Zack?
Look, I don't think that's crazy by any means necessary. It's always kind of like you sit and watch how what they do, not really what they say. And like you said, he's been on campus several times. And these aren't just visits. These are key family events as well when he's coming to town. He came in when it was his parents' anniversary. I believe one of the visits he came in was a family member's birthday. It might have been his grandmother's birthday. So he's coming on these big time, family event weekend type of things. And he's not coming solo. He's coming with the entire family. He brought his girlfriend for Bayou Splash. That day that he came at the end of July for Bayou Splash, he was set to be going to Michigan and checking out Michigan. But instead he decided to hop on a flight and come down to Baton Rouge for a visit where he was surrounded by some of the best talent in both Louisiana and America. So look, it's a tremendous opportunity every time you can get in his face and speak with him and talk to him. I think it's going to be a tough battle with Michigan as well. But look, it couldn't have gone any better, is what I've heard. I heard the visit went extremely well.
Right.
They checked all the boxes, and look, now it's just kind of you sit back and you see what happens now. He'll make his way probably to Michigan 1, maybe 2 more times. That decision in January. But look, I wouldn't call you crazy for saying that LSU, is right there, heavily square in the mix. I'm not going to sit here and say locked, done deal, but look, it's looking very, very nice after this weekend is the best way I'll put it.
I can tell you if LSU were to land him, this would be like losing Leonard Fournette to, Ohio State or something like this. The meltdown will be colossal. I got a super chat from Devin Johnson. I think he's a new super chatter. Thanks for coming, Devin Johnson. Dear Tiger fans, we need to bring the energy to Tiger Stadium. Let's fill the stadium. It was not Saturday. It was electric for 10 minutes, 103,000. Okay, so it was very electric to begin the game. I think that they went up 17-0 and they blew them out so much it kind of deflated the air. Would have liked them to stick a little bit longer. Yeah, I mean, when I was a student in LSU before I got into journalism and working with communications, I mean, I stayed alma mater to alma mater for every game. But it's your money. You do what you want. I definitely know that the crowd caused a few penalties and made their presence felt. Also on the 103,000, it was a sold out game. I did notice there was a patch in the top corner end zone where maybe 500 empty seats or so. But those were the Auburn tickets where they gave tickets to Auburn and Auburn didn't sell all theirs. So yeah, LSU sold all the tickets, right? Auburn had the tickets, but Auburn didn't sell them. So Auburn fans did not show up to fill their section. But it on paper, it was a sellout. What'd you think about the atmosphere, Zach? I mean, I didn't think it was that. I think the biggest reason, I mean, I heard 5 STTDB chants. So
that started early. That started early in the first quarter, too.
Oh, man. Early and often into any song. But go ahead. What'd you think about the atmosphere?
Look, I think early it was electric. I mean, when we were sitting there like on the field pregame and stuff, that student section was rocking. Kim Mulkey came down and everybody was going crazy. And it was a good atmosphere. Obviously it kind of trickled out come the second half because, maybe that's kind of what you want when LSU's so far ahead. But look, I wouldn't say just 10 minutes. I would say that first half was a pretty electric atmosphere and, Tiger Nation showed out as best they could. But yeah, you'd like to see it all 4 quarters. Of course, I can't disagree with that at all.
Okay. So we're going to keep diving into recruiting here. Of course, here's a rando in the comments section. Drop any recruiting questions if you have any. Who's that guy? So along with Bryce Underwood on campus was 5-star Harlem Berry, the running back out of New Orleans, who is also a top 10 overall player, number 1 running back in the country. I mean, he's as secure a lock as you can give to an uncommitted player more than a year out from signing day. I mean, his father has relationships with Frank Wilson. It's a Louisiana running back. I mean, LSU just has a strong history of closing on these guys and getting them in purple and gold. And I'm sure coaches are in Bryce Underwood's ear all the same with that information. And Dakorien Moore was also on campus, the number 1, and now, by the way, unanimous 5-star Dakorien Moore, who's doing just electric things at Duncanville. With that offense at Duncanville is no joke. I mean, they are so good. And Dakorien Moore is every bit as good as his ratings suggest. So you've got the number 1 overall recruit, number 1 quarterback in the country on campus, and you've got the number 1 running back who's basically a lock, and the number 1 receiver. I mean, there's got to be some LeBron going to South Beach vibes going on in his ear. He's thinking to himself, and that offense, look what they're doing with that offense, and all these guys, on this campus, and two of them are basically a lock to LSU. Man, that is the reason why I kind of have switched in my mind. Like, I know it's hard to pull a kid from Michigan, but I really think that that's what's turning the tide. Is he sees the writing on the wall of something very potential to be done. So, man, you get what I'm saying, though. I mean, that
look, like what you're saying, it makes a lot of sense. The Harlem Berry chatter to LSU obviously is from the jump that was what a lot of people felt. I think Texas is going to come in swinging for the fences. I think Steve Sarkisian and them over there, in Austin, are going to be coming in pretty hard for Harlem Berry as well. But it's hard to not sit here and say that he's an LSU lean right now just because made his way to campus again, the relationships that he's built. Another Louisiana kid, Frank Wilson, rarely swings and misses on somebody of his caliber. So, look, I love the chances for Harlem Berry. I think a lot of people within the industry would agree as well. When it comes to Dakorien Moore, I mean, I know he's visited UT, he's visited other campuses and stuff, but I think he's so locked in with what LSU's building right now. And I love the OBJ comparison. I know it's high praise, and I know that sets a lot of pressure and expectations on his shoulders, but it's one of his favorite players. The similarities are uncanny. So I love what they're doing there. And then the three-headed snake, you add Bryce Underwood there. I mean, look, those are 3 program-changing prospects. And if you can get all 3 of them in one class, I mean, like you said, a LeBron type of like the South Beach type thing. I mean, you're getting a stupid amount of talent in one recruiting class if possible. Like I said, it's going to be the Bryce Underwood sweepstakes are going to be tough down the home stretch, and Harlem Berry's exciting. It's a long way out until these guys put pen to paper, but right now, I mean, LSU has to feel fantastic with what they're doing on the recruiting trail because this weekend was monstrous.
I heard STTB DB chants on the broadcast. That is hilarious. Me and Mike had this simultaneous revelation. We looked at each other and we were like, if you're going to do the chant anyways, right? And there's nothing you can do to stop tens of thousands of people who want to say one thing at one time if they organize well enough, and they clearly have. If you're going to do it anyways, you might as well just play neck and make it freaking awesome. Okay. And then just do it once a game. One neck a game. We're going to get it out and everybody, and just let it be this awesome thing. And it's, or you could keep on doing what you're doing and you get like 5 of them a game. Like just play neck, guys. Think of the children who want a wholesome atmosphere.
I agree. I agree.
Big Conus Kellis follows that up with who else in the 2024 class can we talk about? That brings me to the next group of people I want to talk about. Of course, also in the 2025 class, there was Kevin Otis and Keelan Moses. Those are 2 guys who are absolutely highly recruited. If Moses sounds familiar, that's the little brother of Dylan Moses, who is very excited on Twitter right now. He goes to U High. A lot of exciting stuff. Teron Francis was another 2025 guy who committed this weekend. That's the man child I was telling you about. So a lot of good stuff for the 2024. Yes, there were some uncommitted prospects. Most of the people there were commitments, which, by the way, I like bringing in your committed players with good uncommitted players. Most of the 2024 class is said and done, right? Most of the class composition is put in place. I like the class composition. You need defensive linemen. You need more because you signed 0 defensive tackles last year. You got to bring some in. And, there's not a ton of just great defensive tackles left on the board. Dominic McKinley, I think he's said and done. He's going to Texas A&M, but who might not be going to Texas A&M? Well, there were 3 Texas A&M commits on campus this weekend, and that brings me to my second group that we'll focus on. All 2024 guys. Terry Bussey, the athlete, probably going to play receiver. You had Draylon Miller, another receiver, and Gabriel Relaford, who plays, defensive tackle. He might play a little outside, but he's a guy who can do a lot of things. But he's a Louisiana guy. And he's in Shreveport playing for Evangel. That's a guy you really, especially considering you missed on Dominic McKinney, you'd love to. Guys, our sister site is Texags, and we're in touch really close with those guys. They're freaking out right now because what I'm told is, everybody knows in recruiting, one individual loss doesn't really change the tide, but continued disappointments and continued losing after losing after losing. Guys start to say, hey man, Jimbo, you've been here how many years, man? I mean, this NIL money's great, but I got NIL money no matter where I go. And I want to win some football games. What's going on? I think LSU might get a guy or 2 out of that. What have you heard on the Texas A&M trio that was here this weekend?
Yeah, so that was fantastic. Get all those 3 guys, in town. Gabriel Relaford is a monster get for Texas A&M, and obviously, if LSU can pull off that flip, that would be something fantastic because obviously it's a position of need when you're looking at the defensive line, group. They're going to the JUCO ranks. They're diving into 2024. So that's a position of need, and they're treating Gabriel Relaford like a priority. And that's the second game day he's been down south to Baton Rouge. So I love what they're doing. They're keeping in touch with him, close contact. I love that. For Terry Bussey, I mean, look, probably about an hour ago, he put out a cryptic tweet with, the little eye emojis.
Yeah, I put that out there. I
all these
DM'd him after that. I was like, "What is this?
Yeah,
Tell
they
me
love to
now."
stir the pot, and I mean, to get him back in town again, right after he came on his official visit to Arkansas is fantastic. Just to continue building that relationship. That's a guy that Brian Kelly loves and thinks the world of just as a person. This isn't a guy who's really going to play games, so there's obviously mutual interest on both ends. He wouldn't just come to town on his own dime for fun. So,
Right.
Obviously there's mutual interest there. And then Drellin Miller, I mean, stacking receivers for the long haul, you can never go wrong. And he met with Brian Kelly on Sunday, and to do that was fantastic. Keep him in town for a little bit on Sunday for around a 24, 36-hour visit is fantastic. So the Texas A&M trio to get them all in town is a big deal, and Relaford's obviously really your top priority. Bussey's going to be hard to flip, but if you can get somebody at a position of need like Gabriel Relaford, man, that would be monster. So they're going to keep their foot on the gas until early signing period.
I think Drellin Miller is the one that's kind of the outlier here, because I mean, look at the receivers LSU's already got.
Right.
It's a pretty stacked class of wide receivers you're bringing in.
But when you're seeing this offense, unlock all these different, like Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, Kyron Lacey broke out of his shell. If you feed Chris Hilton, he can do you as a deep threat. So you can utilize numerous receivers in one offense, and who knows what can happen if you.
No, right? No, I and I definitely get you on that. I'm not saying. I just think the other two are more like, especially Gabriel Relaford being in state at a position of major need, and LSU's going to have to hit the portal again to get more defensive tackles in here, because I mean that position group is it's thin because they haven't recruited well the last couple of years there. And Terry Bussey, the thing he would bring is just that real crown gem role to this class.
Yeah,
almost every
LSU talked about that on several occasions.
Yeah, almost every LSU class has that like 5-star name of the class type guy. You don't have that currently. Although Tradez Green is working his way up recruiting boards. I mean, he's knocking on the door of a 5-star player, and he's a monster for Zachary, guys. I mean, very likely he'll be the number 1 tight end in the country out there. So just keep an eye on him. But again, Terry Bussey brings that day one. He does not, there's no working his way up the recruiting rankings for him. So all three of those guys, I think LSU is in the conversation with. I would be surprised if not one of them ends up a Tiger when it's all said and done. But that being said, most of the 2024 class is said and done. They've got
another thing to
commits.
kind of note on Bussey is like a lot of these programs are recruiting him as a safety. Like I'm pretty sure once he goes to A&M, like I'm pretty sure they're recruiting him primarily as a safety. But when it comes to this LSU staff, they view him as a guy who can be a multi-dimensional player, whether it's working his way on special teams, playing safety. He met with Cortez Hankton as well during his official visit and kind of had the opportunity to talk as a potential receiving threat too. So, they're rolling out the red carpet and they're offering him several different opportunities when it comes to playing for LSU. So, look, he's going to be a tough guy to flip, but you can never say never. The recruiting game is so fluid. It's just so unique.
And the other thing about it is, especially if he does want to play DB, right? It's not like there's not opportunities at LSU to get on the field. I mean, next year there'll be some wide open spots to go after there. Because I mean, the DBs for LSU has been, since Brian Kelly got there, it's been this cycle of portal, replace, and
just an overhaul every small sample size, 2
small sample. No, it's gonna start as Ryan Yates. And by the way, the safety from Las Vegas, what's his name? Jeremiah Hughes. Yeah, he made his debut this week, and I think he was a beast in Vegas last year, man. I mean, he had all sorts of plays he was making.
And he's still learning the position. He was a guy who flipped from, I believe, wide receiver to cornerback. So this is somebody who's still learning the position as a whole. I think Jeremiah Hughes is a guy who can burst on the scene sooner rather than later. Completely agreed with what you're saying.
As these guys, and I understand Mike tends to think that DBs either have it or they don't when they come in. I tend to still lean toward
the developmental aspect.
Yeah, I still think there's something to be said for having seniors, and upperclassmen at any position group. I still think that. I think they can flash talent all they want. If you're out of position and not flipping your hips right, and there's still a lot of stuff that being a veteran player. And guys, the last thing I'm gonna touch on these guys, I mean, I could go all day, but hey, don't sleep on LSU brought in some talented 2026 guys. They're getting a good head start. And that starts with Lamar Brown. Have you seen him at all? The kid, offensive tackle kid?
Yeah.
He's a beast.
Sticks out like a sore thumb.
Oh yeah, and he's very likely going to be one of the top 10 players in the country in 2026.
Absolutely agree.
And he was on campus this weekend, and he's all LSU guys. I've talked to him. I've been talking to him since he was in 7th grade, like just a very long time. And every single time he's like, "Oh yeah, I love LSU," but like, I'm 12 years old, man. I'm not going to commit to a college football team right now. I think I think LSU's got some good stuff going on in the recruiting pipeline. Oh, and by the way, quietly as On3 and 247 did their kind of mid-season recruiting rankings updates, and CJ Jackson committed to LSU this weekend, the 2024 class has quietly worked its way up to the number 6 class in the country. So some good stuff going on that front. I get to a few comments. Look, guys, we were really long just now. I just want to say I appreciate y'all for listening. We're going to get to a few comments here. I'm actually going to switch Wi-Fi networks here because
it wasn't really that bad, to be honest.
Well, I've had 2 people message me saying I'm freezing up. So I'm going to give Cox some more of my mind. But I'm going to go ahead and switch to my phone just to be consistent. I upgraded my Wi-Fi, by the way, guys, to the absolute best available.
And you're hardwired, and this is still like
I'm literally hardwired. I have a new router, like the latest, greatest router, and I have their best Wi-Fi that they have offered available. So I guess tethering off my AT&T cell phone is the best option, right? Cole Adams, the great comment. I appreciate your support here, Cole. I appreciate you for watching. I really enjoy y'all's chats. You 2 guys have my respect. I really appreciate that. Can't tell you how much that means to us.
Appreciate you, Cole.
Hopefully we have more respect than you have for Texas 8-4. We have to stop 8-4 and horns down from undercutting our territory. Lace up the boot. Now let's put this in perspective real quick. I'm gonna make sure I've got this all down right. I believe LSU signed 8 of the top 10 in state. And but by the way, this is a down year in state for recruiting. This is not as deep of recruiting class as you get. And in fact, the 1 5-star you got in state is Dominic McKinley.
Right.
By the way, we have some good film on him on the site coming up this week. We sent our intern to there to go film him and said he looked actually pretty decent. But I think up 5 stars go, he's a little fringe 5-star. Y'all know about my father-in-law, and I get tons of messages from him complaining and stuff like that. I'm not saying he's not a good player that you shouldn't have signed, because that's not the kind of guy I am. But I don't think he's like as good as your typical number 1 player in the state. That's what I'm trying to say. Hopefully that's not too disrespectful to him. But yeah, you got of the top, you got 7 of the top 10. Okay, you missed on Relaford. We'll see if that might not be done. Wardell Mack, the cornerback from John Arrett, is going to Florida, and Dominic McKinley. So I mean, you're doing a good job in state. And don't forget Michael Turner from John Curtis is coming, and then Kyrie Lee, who is pretty woefully under recruited. I don't think you really did that bad of a job. I mean, I tell people, if you lock down 12 of the top 15, which there weren't 15 takes this year in state, that's why I'm saying it's down. If you just lock down 12 of the top 15, you're going to have a top 5 recruiting class, because you're going to get some guys out of state. This is LSU. Texas is right there with some guys. I mean, you'll be fine. 12 of the 15 is what you need. I think they did a pretty good job in state. I think that they really needed to do better out of state recruiting this cycle, but maybe they will. Maybe they'll finish strong. We'll see. Super chat here from American Patriot. Even Cecil the Diesel was at the game. Did you see Jacques' tweet trying to like beg to get him tickets?
I did, but did you also see that Frank Gore was at the game? I had no idea that he was a scout.
I did. Who told me that?
Yeah,
James Mesh. James Mesh from 1037 The Game came up and was like, "Yeah, I just ran into Frank Gore." I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I had no idea he was a scout.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, I guess it's a good gig, and I'm sure he has a good eye for at least running back talent.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, he only played 20 some odd years.
I was about to say the same thing.
Look, if you had told me that Frank Gore was still on an NFL roster,
I would have believed you.
I would have been like, oh yeah, no, that checks out. You
Mhm.
know, sure. Very, very, very cool stuff. So let's pay a couple bills here. We're gonna talk about the game a little bit, guys. If y'all want to talk about some recruiting stuff, lay me some specific questions. We'll try our best to get to it. Of course, you know, sometimes people come up with obscure recruiting stuff, which is why I try to not do too much live comments on recruiting, just because people come with stuff. You know, people like to ask about their local star, which, you know, we're only covering guys going to LSU or I'm sorry, with LSU targeting them already. So sometimes we don't have that. But anyways, let's talk about Celebrity Theaters, guys. Of course, you know about their weekday specials already. They do Monday Senior Savings Day, $5 for all patrons over the age of 55. Tomorrow night will be their Bargain Tuesday, where they do discounted movie tickets and concessions for all. So you make sure to go check that out. Wednesday is College Night, where admission for college students after 5 p.m. is $5, and all locations have half off arcades all day. Thursday at the Baton Rouge location only is the Thirsty Thursday, where you get discounted bar items. So good stuff going on there at Celebrity Theaters. And guys, of course, I gotta talk about my sponsor behind me, as you can see, from artist Jordan Spector. Guys, if this piece behind me, the Joe Burrow piece, has caught your eye throughout this season, you're not the only one. When you put this in your living room, your guests, it's going to catch their eyes as well. And the attention to details within the art is really what's going to keep their attention. You, of course, remember the Smokin' Joe for 2020. He's followed that up with a bunch of great Louisiana pieces like the Dylan Cruz 7, where the fireworks, and he's got the golden cleats on from LSU's national championship. You can commemorate all of LSU's best moments. He's got the Coach O and Joe Burrow winning the national championship one. He's got a Drew Brees the Saint. You can check this out in the link at the description of the show, spectorsportsart.com/the Bayou. Guys, all artwork is ready to go straight from the box to your wall. All the materials you need, nail, mount, all of that, it's all in the box. You don't need to worry about buying special materials. Artwork is available in quality print canvas, and it comes in all shapes and sizes to fit any room or any budget. So make sure to go check it out. Coolest part about this artwork, guys, these athletes buy the work themselves. This is in Joe Barrow's parents' living room right now. That Dylan Cruz piece, it's in Dylan's man cave. And you see some of the pictures from this on his website if you go check it out, spectorsportsart.com/the Bayou. While you're there, make sure to use the promo code TigerBait10 to get 10% off your first order. And of course, let our sponsors know that their sponsor dollars are being put to good work on TigerBait.com. All right, let's see if we got any good comments here. Audio is good. Makes me feel like a PC is lagging. Is there some lag, guys? That's strange. Esteban, what's up? What's up, Esteban? So Esteban, we first started doing these shows during the 2020 season just on Facebook, before we had a YouTube channel. And Esteban was literally like the first hardcore fan of these shows. Carl Dunn, we love Carl the cat. What's going on? Good evening, guys. Do we get to miss Bus in the second quarter or this week, or will LSU wait till the second? What?
Nuts Bus.
Oh,
I didn't think about it
well,
for a
I'm
second.
wondering right now, is that a shot at Nuss, like saying he's a miss, like he's gonna miss his pass? You know, the thing is about this offense is just cooking so much. It just depends on if the defense can hold. I think the Army is not going to be able to attack your DBs. If Auburn can attack your DBs, Army won't. I think this is a good matchup for the defense. And yeah, I think
second half. I'd probably
third quarter. I'd say he opens up the third quarter, goes in there, and I'd even wager to see we might see some Ricky Collins action again.
Yep.
So good question, Carl Dunn. LSU actually played a football game outside of recruiting this weekend. It's hard to believe, right? Like, based on everything we're talking about.
Such a crazy weekend.
I know. But I was like, I got to lead with the good stuff. I can't just sit here and ignore the type of recruiting talent. I'm not sure LSU's ever had a better core of talent at one game, but maybe, especially think about that 2014 recruiting cycle where there was just an insane amount of talent in state. But I can't tell you a single game where they actually had more talent than this, but LSU took care of business on the field. 563 yards of total offense, 293 yards given up on the defense. That's under 300 yards. Last week we talked a lot about if this defense had seen the light at the end of the tunnel. And of course the bar we're holding them to, I don't think either one of us or really any reasonable person, would come out and say this needs to be an elite defense, right? Just be average. Just don't be a liability.
What do
Okay.
we say, like 77th, 78th in the country?
Yeah, work your way into the 70s,
Something
60s.
easy.
By God, dare I say the 40s total defense in the country.
Can't go that high.
Just don't give up 700 yards to Ole Miss when your offense is just playing lights out.
God, I still can't get over that game.
Yeah, I mean I think that's one at the end of the seasons. You're gonna look back and it's gonna bite you in the ass.
You said it best after that game. You were like, "That is the worst defensive performance I've ever seen in my life," and I was like, "I can't think of one worse."
And I was really careful about saying that because I was alive for 2020, and that was really bad. And I don't like to make gaudy hyperbolic statements.
That one was valid.
That I really do feel like that was the worst, especially considering it was a winnable game. And I think that's one that's just going to bite you in the ass because if your defense could just play the way it's playing now, you would have been fine. But offensively, you continued to put on a show.
Right.
We talked a lot about the defense, and after those 3 drives at Missouri, remember Missouri scored 3 touchdowns, boom, 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 22 points, and we're like, oh God, here it goes again. That's clearly being a demarcation line in my books, like where this defense, something just clicked. I don't know what it was, but something clicked right there because at that point, on drives that weren't cut short by the clock, you gave up scores on 17 out of 20 drives. Since then, you've given up scores on 6 out of 21. So that's a tremendous improvement. And from watching the film, most of it is, and Brian Kelly talked about this immediately after the game about why the tackling is improved. It's like spacing is a big part of it. So basically, the front 7 is at least getting in the area, forcing them into defenders, right? So that there's less open space for these safeties to come down and cover. So it's just an interesting level of the game to think about when we think about tackling. We talk about the physical act of tackling and just how funny how coaches have such a higher level understanding and perspective when talking about these things, such as spacing for the tackles. So I think effort, I see a lot less loafing around, just energy, effort. That clearly they were demoralized against Ole Miss because they were loafing around with very little effort, and just tackling is getting better. The question is, and we've talked about the matchups improving down the stretch. The question is here, has this defense truly turned the corner?
I'd want to tell you yes, but I can't go that far just yet, just because there's just such a level of improvement that needs to continue to go. I mean, your secondary, losing somebody like Deuce Chestnut is significant. The depth there is just so frail. And look, Auburn is not a good football team, and I'm just going to be pretty blunt about that. There's just nothing offensively that they did or do that is really, standing out. That's very impressive. Peyton Thorne,
Right.
He's a solid quarterback, but they just don't utilize their wide receivers as vertical threats. Crossing routes really weren't, something that was, which is usually a liability. It didn't even play a role on Saturday. So look, that offense is a pretty tough offense is all I'll say. And I don't think that's a game that you can look at and say that, look, they turned the corner. That was an impressive defensive performance. They did what they were supposed to do and they handled business, but it's going to take some time until they turn that corner. And I think against Alabama is going to be that game that you sit there and circle and say, look, this is the opportunity to get over that hump and, take that next step.
I think that the one thing you can say that's concrete about this defense at this point is to truly, you have to be a really good offense to truly compete with LSU's offense.
You have to put up their, I agree.
You can't just have a mediocre offense and abuse this defense, right? This defense will compete with mediocre offenses. Yeah. And that's the good news, because you couldn't say that concretely a couple weeks ago.
No.
Now, whether or not the offenses they face, I like the offenses you're about to face. Your boy Napier at Florida. You got Texas A&M with a backup quarterback, Max Johnson, although a very capable, as we all know, very capable backup quarterback with Max Johnson. And then Alabama, of course, having their problems with Jalen Milroe and that offense, but improving and kind of getting me a little worried. We'll see what Alabama does against Tennessee this weekend. That's the main thing I like about the matchup with Alabama is while LSU plays a cupcake in Army, which no offense to Army, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that LSU will be challenged against Army. But I have a lot of respect for their program and institution, no doubt. Alabama hosts Tennessee this weekend, and that's no longer just a free win as it was for the better part of 10 years. So love to see that.
I love the scheduling format, by the way, that LSU did this year. Like, I think it's fantastic to play, a group of 5 team and then go on a bye. It gives you an opportunity to heal up and, kind of not really test the waters per se against a team like Army, but it gives you the opportunity to kind of, test the waters and do a couple of different things. Just to get right before that Bama game. I love the way that they set up the schedule like that.
I love this part of the schedule. I absolutely love it. I do have some qualms. Number one, I think you need to get a week 0 game for
we talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
Right. And the second thing I like about a week 0 game is it gives you an extra bye in the middle of the season to help guys get even more rest and recover. And I also really didn't like how, you go on the road 4 times in your first 6 games. I mean, that just was a brutal stretch. Now you get into the second 6 games. You're at home 5 times out of 6. So, there are good stuff. I just think the first 6 games of this schedule was a pretty rough start for LSU. And then you look at what the home games were versus what the away games are at the beginning. Is like, I would have traded Arkansas for Ole Miss this year for sure. Rather go to Arkansas than Ole Miss. Let's get to a few comments here. So the cop did have a good form tackle Saturday night. Guys, if y'all missed it, go see my Twitter. I literally saw the guy running on the field from the fence. I was like, yoink, record.
Tripped over his own feet. Turf toe.
You can't do that, man. You gotta hold your own ground. Once you make that decision to run on the field, you gotta own it. Now, I like that he hyped up the crowd. I also like that he made $1,000 to do it. His friend bet him $1,000. So I hope he's good at collecting on that $1,000. He's going to need it. Now, I heard, I did not journalize this up, but the word on the streets is it was a catch and release. Like they let him go. No jail time.
Dang.
Yeah. And he's just got a lifetime ban from Tiger Stadium.
Worth it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I look, he didn't hurt anybody, and it was only mildly disrupting. I don't think he should lose his job and go sit in a jail cell or anything like that. But on the other hand, I understand that, you can't just have everybody. There's 100,000 people doing it. You can't have everybody doing that. That's chaos. Unless you win the game and then you storm the field. I just thought it was pretty best tackle of the night. In my opinion, anybody who storms the field You pick the biggest, baddest linebacker on both teams, and you got to do an Oklahoma drill. That's it. Like, you forfeit the right to not be tackled by the players once you run on the field. Very funny. Cole Adams. I followed Preston for years. I don't know how I've missed Zack until this year. Well, now join the party, man. Give him a follow. You see his handle down there. He puts out some good stuff. Zack, you started the LSU beat last year, right?
It's my second year on the LSU beat, correct?
Yeah, so he replaced Glenn West, left Sports Illustrated and went to 247, and that left this opening here. And you graduated from ULL the year before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, he's young. He's just
still young on the scene.
Yeah, he's just kind of. That's probably why until just now, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have him on this show, to kind of get his name out there. He's doing some good work. Works really hard for Sports Illustrated and puts out some real good stuff. So, good opportunity to expose him to people like that. What about the scheming of Hugh Freeze? Rodney Scott, that's a good point you bring up. I was not nuts over the game plan that Hugh Freeze brought.
No.
I thought that if he really wanted to test DB, particularly Zy Alexander.
He circled Zy Alexander and said, I'm coming after you and I'm not going to let up. And I loved Zy Alexander's response to that. He showed up and had a phenomenal game.
Yeah, he did. And the thing is, I also don't like the way he tagged. You don't want to tag Zy Alexander over the top. You nickel and dime him underneath. I think that he saw the weakness of this LSU offense was throwing the ball deep, right, and or on seam plays where they have to make a tackle. And Hugh Freeze said, I'm going to go for that, whether I have the personnel to do it or not. Whereas I feel like if he had tried to focus on the running game and getting off to the edge, not only are you taking the ball out of Jaden Daniels' hands for more time, but you are also attacking a almost equally bad weakness for this team. I really did not like his game plan. I think he could have put up more than 18 points had he not tried. I mean, your quarterback ranks 15th in the SEC in passing out of, there's only 14 teams in the SEC. So really wasn't a good passing attack for Auburn. I don't know what they were trying to do. One last batch of ads to put out before we close out. If you got any comments, get them out. We'll try to get them to you, but we got to talk about Alumni Hall. Hey, Tiger fans, when you want to show your Tiger friend, your Tiger pride, Alumni Hall is your ultimate shopping experience. It's the best and largest selection of apparel for the whole family. They've got Nike Golf, Champion, Columbia, Peter Millar, Southern Tide, hats, Yeti gifts, and accessories. LSU students, faculty, and military receive 10% off in-store every day. You can earn cash back with their Hall Pass rewards. Alumni Hall, located in Perkins Row, or anytime at alumnihall.com. Alumni Hall, where Tiger fans shop. And guys, of course, we got to give a shout out to Celebrity Theaters. That might help if I pull this comment down here. Guys, Celebrity Theaters has 8 to 10 auditoriums. So whether you're interested in hosting a birthday party, private movie screening, corporate meeting, or arcade or party, they've got the perfect facility to fit your needs. Celebrity Theaters is proud to offer birthday packages for children of all ages. Let us handle everything from movies to entertainment to setup to cleanup. For more information or to book your birthday party online, visit celebritytheaters.com/events or send them an email at events@celebritytheaters.com. All right, let's get to a couple comments here. I like Napier, but I don't like Florida. Is he preaching from your heart, Zack, right now?
Look, I love Napier. I can't hide my love for Napier. So, yeah,
that's your guy.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it. Well, I mean, you were like a student. He like treated you pretty well, right? As the head coach at
yeah.
We're looking. Student.
We'll look back, and this was like the glory days of ULL football, whatever you want to call it. So. Yeah, I got to live in a pretty good time.
Right, you know what?
Napier's a class act.
I hope he gets the Tulane job after Willie Fritz takes whatever big job is out there, and he gets to come back home and coach at Tulane after he gets canned at Florida. Zack is the man and Preston is the dog. Even if that dog's a chihuahua, right? That's Big Cody's Kelly. He likes to joke with me because after the first week, I said, if you body slam Jaden Daniels, I have to fight you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I said, who's got that dog in them? And now the joke is I'm a chihuahua. I like Sunbelt Billy too.
Gonna turn into a Napier hate session.
Oh man, Napier was here in Lafayette, and the players loved him. He had big camps. Men from around the U.S. would come. He is a good big recruiter. I'll say this: in 2021, he had the best offensive line in the state of Louisiana, not named the New Orleans Saints, and that included LSU.
He's really good at recruiting running backs and offensive linemen. He was kind of making a little factory out in Lafayette. He was doing fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, scared money don't make money, right, baby? How many of those offensive linemen ended up like getting drafted or at least like seeing some time in the NFL, Zach?
Max Mitchell's on the Jets right now. You had another guy that transferred from ULL to Florida, and now he just went to the league. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But like a couple, 2, 3, 4, one for the Steelers as well. So Dotson.
But like that's not like the norm for them, right? Like that's pretty good, pretty darn good, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, here's a good question from Esteban. I haven't heard the status on Emory Jones, but if he's not able to go, what's the realistic expectation from Hurt? Okay, so first off, Emory Jones picked a fantastic time to have a high ankle sprain. I mean, fantastic. This is literally like the best time in the middle of the season to deal with that because you got Army. And I mean, quite frankly, we're not going to play here. Army is not going to challenge LSU. And you get to give a freshman some reps. So very good. And then you get a bye. And then you go to Alabama where hopefully everybody is back. Realistic expectation. I expect him to take care of business against Army. I don't know who he's going to be blocking. I can't name anybody in the front seven for Army, but certainly he should take care of business. And he played well last week, right?
Yeah, I agree. The Emory Jones thing, ankle sprain. He was on crutches, going to the locker room, was in a boot after the game. But, I expect, Lance Hurd to just step in and fill the role. Like you said, just handle business. Nothing too crazy. Just go in, do what you need to do best, and move on. Like you said, it's not going to be this insurmountable, SEC type defensive lineman that he's going to be going up against. So handle business, and you got the bye week, and then you get Emory Jones right back, hopefully.
Billy Napier is a good coach. He could have done well coaching at LSU. All you need to do to be successful at LSU is recruit well and hire great assistants. Y'all could go back and watch my 2021 shows for what I was looking. I was looking for a football tactician to come in because LSU hadn't had that since Nick Saban. And I feel like, hire great assistants. That's all hunky dory. That works until it doesn't. And the thing is, if you are not a tactician as a head ball coach, not only is it harder to identify, and I'm not saying Billy Napier, I actually don't know enough about his background calling plays to really comment. Like I forgot. I had it looked up a long time ago. But when you're not a tactician as a head coach, you're one coordinator hire away from 6-6 at any given time. I mean, period. And that's what LSU was under Ed Ogeron. And that's why LSU never bounced back from the 2019 national championship. But anyways, this has been the Billy Napier Show on TigerBait.com. Appreciate y'all for joining us.
Final 8 minutes were all Napier comments.
Dude, I cannot. Man, I can't wait for him to come to town.
It's gonna be a fun week.
We're gonna have like 2 straight weeks of roasting Napier. You know that, right?
Oh, I'm very prepared.
It's a hot topic. Well, guys, if you enjoyed the show, hit that share button and like the show so we can get some good algorithm stuff going on for us. Share the show out, especially if you didn't watch the beginning. Go rewatch it. I'm serious because we had some really good information about all the recruits who were on campus. It was really arguably an unprecedented weekend of recruiting and a great game also for the Tigers on the field. LSU won on and off the field tonight. Zack Nagy joins me as always every Monday. Y'all make sure to give the channel a follow, give him a follow. We'll be back. Mike and Buddy will be back Wednesday night, and we'll be back with our post-game show after the Army game. Usually that's about 90 minutes after kickoff. Sometimes it's a little later when it's a home game, but I imagine traffic will be a little easier to face in a couple weeks. So guys, appreciate y'all as always. Y'all have an excellent evening, and go Tigers.